Welcome back to the channel. Today we're looking at the brand new Vanguard Knives Cheetah. This is Vanguard's debut model, and this is a design coming from Kevin FC. That's all they have on the site. The same owner of P&P Knives started Vanguard Knives, so he could give us more EDC friendly knives. And so far, I gotta admit, I like what I'm seeing. This particular version comes in at $250. You can also get one with a Damascus clip for $280. The Cheetah is a very classy, sleek design. It gives me somewhat of Sebenza vibes. Definitely not a copy of Sebenza, but it just gives me those vibes of just a, drop point, clean lines. I'd say this is a medium to large, more than that medium size range at 7.75 inches long with a 3.34 inch cutting edge, and it's in Bowler M390 stainless steel. The drop point blade has a beautiful brushed satin finish on it. It looks like a hand rubbed satin. I'm sure it's just like a machine satin going horizontally on the blade. You got a nice, elegant crown spine on the top. I love crown spines. I think it just looks so classy. You have somewhat of a little thumb ramp there with some jimping, and it grips the thumb very nicely. I do think they could have extended it a little bit further, but if you're choked back right here, it's definitely locked in. You do have a sharpening choil. However, I would have liked to see that extended up a little bit. You should have maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 sharpenings unless you reprofile. This one has a flat grind, kind of like a slicer grind. It goes all the way up to full flat up here, and it comes down nice and thin at around 14 thousandths behind the edge. So let's see how this knife performs. We got an outstanding edge out of box, and I don't really have anything to base any of my opinions on the Vanguard knives yet, since this is their first knife. So I'm gonna have to collectively keep that data so I can kind of see how I think they should perform. But so far so good. I've noticed whenever you have those brush finishes, they usually pass through the material a lot nicer. And now we're gonna test the ergos. And I will say, for the most part, it was very comfortable. Once I started getting to the moderate pressure, you'll see me when I lift up the board. That's usually when I'm putting a lot of pressure into the wood. I start feeling minor hot spot. There's a hard angle on the scales. I'll try to show that after I do the testing. Wasn't terrible, and if you don't plan on doing heavy cutting, you might not feel it. Plus my hands are already wrecked, so take that for what you will. Now this is a high tip drop point. You can use that tip, but it's a lot easier just to use that belly to do drag cuts. The edge still felt really good, and boy, you can really feel how smooth that blade finish is when you do the dense materials like that cardboard right there and that tubing. It doesn't cause any extra friction. And it's really making this perform on another level. It feels like it has nice and thin blade geometry. We'll check that after the testing as well. But yeah, very nice edge. Now for the 1/2 inch sisal rope, and you can see it's just popping it. And it has a good bit of bite to it. I love seeing that, and hopefully that'll be a reoccurring thing with Vanguard knives. But so far so good. And we're not testing for absolute edge retention. Just want to make sure there's no catastrophic damage to the edge or anything after we finish this. So I think I got through 120 cuts before I ran out of the piece of sisal rope that I cut, and it was nice. And being that you have that higher tip, you got a good bit more belly, making all these flat cuts very easy to do. That's the huge benefit with the more belly. You can make finesse cuts, like if you're cleaning game or something, or cutting down on a flat surface. Now you can do that with a drop point as well. That's why a low tip drop point as well. And that's why I like those so much. But excellent job. I'm definitely satisfied, especially being, like I said, their first knife out the gate. And hopefully it continues to get even better than this. So we'll see. Hopefully we see other steals from them. And yeah. This one was fun to test. All right, let's see how that edge is. Yeah, I thought it felt pretty good. It's not as sharp as it was when I first got it, but I didn't expect it to be either. Now let's take a look at the deployment. You have dual thumb studs on both sides and a very well-tuned detent. This thing rockets out. It's riding on ceramic bearings. It's got a very nice and hydraulic smooth action. Yeah, I like the action a whole lot. I can reverse flick if I want to. I can slow roll it if I want to, thumb flick. You can do all the things when it comes to thumb studs there. They're nice and comfortable. You have like a volcano step milled pattern on those studs, and they're easily accessible on both sides. Now let's take a look at the handle area. You have very clean looking design. You have titanium scales with standard weave carbon fiber inlays, and they're nice and tight. I don't see any major gaps. I don't see any voids in the carbon fiber. And I love that they also put it on the lock side as well. Your pivot is a Torx T8, and as you can see, it's clean on this side. I don't know, I haven't taken this one apart. I'm guessing that there may be something underneath here or right here. You do have a full-length backspacer, which I don't mind, especially if it's not overly weighty, because that will make it a lot more comfortable in hand. When you have that slit right there and you're bearing down into something, you're going to feel that. So I guess the only other hardware screw would be the clip screws, and I'm guessing this screw is going into either the frame on this side or there's like a barrel. I don't know how they constructed this one. However, they do have Torx T6 for the pocket clip screws. I would have loved to see everything T8. You have a milled titanium pocket clip. Nice tension there. And enough ramp, I can get it in my jeans rather easily. Now it is tip up, right hand carry only, unfortunately. And that's all you have sticking out of the pocket. You have no internal milling to reduce weight. It's all done with these inlays. And you have a full-length tie backspacer with, fairly robust stock there, bringing the weight to 117.8 grams or 4.15 ounces. Not bad at all. The lockup of my knife is sitting at around 30% or so. You do have a hardened stainless steel lock insert. And the access to the lock bar, this comes down a little bit further. And you do have some texturing on that lock bar, so it's fairly easy to move over. I find myself using the fat of my thumb to disengage it, only because they did the chamfer here, and then you have the chamfer on the other side. So this up top it's kind of sharp, not super sharp or anything. It might not bother the average person's hands, but for me, I'd much rather use this portion. One thing that I love seeing on this knife is the lock relief cut on the inside. Look how much cleaner that looks. I really, really wish more companies would start doing that. The lockup on my knife is rock solid. Bank vault lockup, no movement up or down, none left to right. Quick size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. Spyderco PM2 and Para 3. Next is a Kaiser Militaw and the Kaiser Coniferous. Very good size reference there. Also great size reference with the Kaiser XL Feist and the Tuya Wrath. Now for my nitpicks and complaints, I think they could have extended the jimping a little bit further. Not something I really care about because I think that's more than enough. I don't really care when it comes to my folding knives. And it's not left-handed friendly, not something that affects me, but we do have a few lefties out there. Wish they would have given us more of a sharpening choil here, because if you do decide to open that up, you're definitely going to have to be careful because that stop pin is fairly close. And lastly, I talked about it during the cutting, but I didn't get a chance to really show y'all. Whenever I start really bearing down on this one, you can see how it's a hard line right there. Whenever I started bearing down, this was a little uncomfortable. It wasn't terrible, and it may not bother the average hand, but for my hands, it did cause somewhat of a hot spot. And also, not so much for a righty, but this little section where they did the chamfer, and then they had the texturing, and then you have this chamfer that comes down, so it's pretty thin right there. I noticed whenever I was holding it in my left hand, it was a little uncomfortable. Not something that bothered me in my right hand when using it, but whenever you're disengaging this, I don't love doing it with my thumb just because I'm pressing on top of this spot right here. So not the biggest deal. Like I said, I use the fat of my thumb anyway. But overall, for their first design, I think they knocked this one out of the park. It's got outstanding action. It's got a nice brushed blade that performed really, really well. You got a crown spine. You got inlays on both sides with a titanium frame. For the most part, it was really comfortable. Like I said, nice and smooth action. They got your lock relief on the inside, and this is only 250 bucks. And I think I say only because I think for what you're getting here, I think it's a good value. I've seen, you know, some of these features on some other companies, and they were far more expensive than this one. And if you jazz it up, you can get a Damascus clip, and they only charge you $30 more. I've seen some companies charge $100. So yeah, I definitely think this is a good buy. This one appeals to you. I definitely don't think you'll be disappointed. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below. If you're interested in this one, I will have it linked down in the description. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.